Morning, everyone. Today we're gonna tell some poker stories while I show you this silly game with Grandmaster uh, Burmakin, and this was in the Czech Republic. This was a good tournament for me. I had played Neverov, another GM, Burmakin, and I think Neverov was in the Rapids, and then Burmakin and Navarra were in the slow. And I drew Navarra, I drew Burmakin, and I drew Neverov. Draw master, which is good. We're talking about poker. We need equilibrium and to make our opponents indifferent. Draw. So, man, a long time ago, I was a young chess hustler on the street. That's what happened to me. Okay, I'll tell the chess story first. I had learned the moves young. I didn't know anything. Then in junior high school, I met a kid, Remy D. And Remy D and I used to smoke a lot of weed. Uh, I started smoking weed before the chess. Uh, I met a kid in it was early seventh grade when I started smoking a lot. Well, we were living uptown and they had these tenement buildings where you'd go put $3 in a keyhole and they get a tray bag. It was garbage weed. Anyway, and then I met this other kid, Remy, who was a stoner, and we would hang out and smoke. And then turned out he loved chess. I liked to play chess, and one day during schoolyard, we there were these tables right outside the schoolyard, and we went out there and we started playing. Everyone else doing tag, kickball, basketball, whatever. And we're out there playing chess, and and then the principal comes up to us, and he says, "What are you two doing out here?" And and we're like, we looked at him like space cadet because we're completely you know immersed in our experience here in a trance. I looked at him like you know just playing chess, and he says, "We have been looking for you for hours. Its school is almost over." And like we went out at lunchtime and we looked at each other and we looked at the yard and the yard was empty and we looked at back at each other and we said, "Oh shit." And and the principal was like he could see that we weren't lying. We were so far gone into this game, and that was the moment I realized that this was my thing. This was something I loved. It was I just fell in love when we would play all night long. And then my other friend Marcelo, who was my best friend, he passed away young. Man, we used to stay up all night long and play blitz overnight and get high. Okay, that's how it started. Fast forward, I'm playing chess now. I'm getting better at it, and I'm starting to play for money on the street. Uh, Times Square, Washington Square Park. There was a place called Colony Records on 52nd Street. Uptown, 141st and St. Nicholas, Central Park had tables. Wherever there were tables and people, I would go and try to take, to make some money. And I met many friends over the years, many people out there. I made so many friends over the years on the street, and it was quite interesting. I met cast of characters you couldn't believe. If I could get all these people together in one room, my God, they were from different generations because I was a bit younger. Uh, well, we had doctors and lawyers and crackheads and pimps and uh, professors, scientists. It was quite an assortment out there over the years. Um, And I talked to James. I met James Altucher out there on the street, and he joked that we had crackheads and billionaires, and sometimes they were the same guy. So, yeah, it was pretty wild, and well, one of the key characters, okay, one of my main favorite people on earth was Nick Rabchinak, okay, Big Nick. Now, Big Nick was a backgammon hustler, a very good backgammon player, especially for the street. He was a smart guy. He was an old bridge master, and well, we got close because I didn't want anything to do with backgammon at all. There were the backgammon tables and the chess tables. The chess tables were art, science guys, and the backgammon players were pure capitalists. And on that side of the table, because these boards were on Liberty Street, which was next to the World Trade Center, and Wall Street, Amex Trading. So we had all the traders were out there. I can't tell you how many times they tried to hire me. In fact, I did get hired, but I quit very fast. I just wanted to be out there. So we had the capitalists on one side, artists on the other side. Romantic. That's the chess people. So we didn't cross over too much. But this guy had so much charisma, and he befriended one of my best friends. So uh, I started hanging out with him more. And one day he said to me, he said, "E man," because he had an odd accent. I would say, "E man, today we're gonna learn a game called Texas Hold'ems. You get two cards and you look at them, and if they're looking back at you, you put your money in the pot." So that was my first poker lesson. Okay, then we had then they started doing $10 sit and goes, no limit sit and goes in the club. He had opened a backgammon club in the wintertime. And so this was now I'm 20, 22 years old. So 13 I'm playing chess. We're 14 I play my first tournament game. At 18 I moved in with a 40-year-old Jew from Queens. She was a real pain in the neck. 22 my mom got cancer. We were in the hospital for 12 years. Okay, so and at 21 she got cancer. 22 poker started, and then I'm gambling a lot. We're taking stealth runs to Atlantic City. Okay, it was all very, very difficult, but we're having the time of our life because we're running off to Atlantic City. The mother stuff is always, when your family's sick, your tower of power is sick, it's just like you can't function properly. So there were a lot of alcohol ensued, a lot of gambling, a lot of drugs, and Nick, Gabe were my main two partners running around. And also, I became friends with someone later. We'll talk about the Ukraine train, and that's the kid who tried to take my money on the street with a hair with a hair part in the middle. So I had to muss up his hair. I said, "We're going out to the club," and anyway, we became best friends later on. That's a whole nother story. And we went out clubbing like nightly for years. Okay, he was also a decent chess. He's also a decent chess player. Not. Anyway, so Nick and I and Gabe were running off to take stealth runs. We were playing 2-4 limit hold'em, 3-6, 4-8, 5-10. So one night we're all like, well, we're all doing well in our little baby games, and Nick says to me, "E man, you know, we've been doing good today. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna play one round of 75, 150. You're gonna get aces, kings, queens, ace, kings suited, and you put your money in the pot, and whatever happens, happens. Okay?" So I go, "All right." So he's sitting behind me. I won him a straw hat at the pier in some carnival game. So he's sitting behind me, sweating me with a straw hat on, right? Like hee haw hat, one of these things. So I said, okay, man, I'll take the money. So we sit down, I'm playing, and it goes raise, call, and I have 9-8 of diamonds. Now, this is not in the instruction book, okay? So he's sitting behind me. I'm looking over my shoulder like this. And the hand just did a Doctor Strangelove. I couldn't help myself, and I just put the money in. So I put the money in. It gets raised behind me. It comes back to me capped. He's freaking. I'm looking behind. The hat is shaking like this, like a leaf. It's a straw hat. And I've got all the bets are in, and it flopped a straight draw. Turn a flush draw, brick the river, and we had to take a bus home. Well, what happened was, uh, I'm freaking, I'm like, well, I could, what could I say? What could I say? He's having a heart attack. He's having a heart attack. He's one of my best friends. It's like my like family, but he's having a heart, and he's mad at me. He's a street guy, and he's mad at me, and we just blew up all the money. And and we're like getting into it, and security comes over, and and then I knew that poker was for me. That was the next traumatic incident that happened that lured me into the poker space. Okay, meanwhile with Burmakin, where we have a straight like king and greedy attack, bishop c5. I'll just go through a few more moves at a time. You can stare at the position. This move makes sense. We just want knight f5 and to take back and go knight e4, trade a whole bunch of pieces and make a draw. No, I'm not sure. I think this should be slightly better for white, but it's not a big deal. Knight b3 is another thing. Chase this bishop around. I'm not sure if knight b3. I think the main gist of this is just to chill. Maybe knight c4 is a thing. Bishop e4. Knight takes back on e3. I want to plunk some pieces on f5. That would be golden, right? Golden ratio, h3, g4, knight f5. Just thinking out loud. I don't know. So now I'm starting to play a lot more poker. I'm playing poker tournaments. Oh, this was fun. They tried to hustle me at the I was playing more poker. I was just getting started. I knew No Limit was easy. I said, how is it possible that everybody playing so badly? Like, as a chess player, and when I was a master at this point when I started playing cards, and I couldn't believe with my eyes. I said, is it really easy, this easy? I was broke my whole life as a chess hustler. I said, is it really this easy to make so much money playing cards? I was winning every session I played. No matter where I was just winning. My graph was just like this. I could not believe how bad everybody, like, even with the bare minimum knowledge that I had, with, look at your two cards, play paint, play aggressive, sit and be patient, wait, without too many details. Like nowadays, I did DTO for 3 years. DTO, I have a record of like 21 in a row is correct, which is pretty good. I made a lot of money with this program, just betting people who told me they could play poker that they suck. Just like, can you play 5 hands correctly in a row? And then most people can't. So I think blind guy, if you study poker, blind guy must have 40 in a row correct. So some people are really good at this game theory business. But during the pandemic, I bought the top tier program, and I started grinding it, and I learned a lot about what I was doing right for a long time, and a lot of the mistakes I was making, specifically with flush draws. But okay, that's a whole nother story. So we back in those days, it was just enough to be logical, to just have a better logical mind, to just be sharp. You didn't need much more than that. To just be patient, sharp, and attack with the good stuff. Even nowadays, you can play like this and probably make some small profit without too much knowledge. But you have to got so many stories. So poker stories. Man, I had some gypsy on the line one night in 40-80, shorthanded. Me and my Ukrainian friend, we were like, this guy is beating us to death shorthanded. Beating us to death. And he was running so good, and he's like, then his whole posse of gypsies come over to the table, looking suave, with the ties. They're going to the club, big watches, slick back hair, you know, bunch of good looking guys. And they said, yeah, man, wow. They're looking at his chips and say, wow, man, let's go to the club. Yeah. And thank goodness I had I had a knot of cash in my pocket. So he trying to get up and he's calculating. And I went in the pocket and I went like that and I showed him the knot. And I said, "You sure you wanted to go to the club, man?" And he goes, "I'll meet you guys there." I don't need to tell you what happened. By the morning, the sweat was coming down, the beads of sweat, the tie was loose, the chip stack was sinking, and he was stuck. I mean, he was up about eight dimes of my money or something. And by the end of the night, in the morning time, when the group came back from the club, there were no more chips left there. I think he was stuck about 10 of his own money now. And stuff like that is really fun. Those are the romance stories that really brought a lot of joy to me. In those days, I was relentless, and I had no empathy for my opponents because I was hungry all my life, and that's what it is when you grow up poor. Mother was a social worker. I was raised in methadone maintenance clinics and drug and alcohol rehab centers. Yeah, that's where I grew up, and there wasn't much money around. So, uh, you don't have the sensitivity doesn't develop until you kick enough ass when you start seeing people. I had a couple of things. The variations where players who would play me on the street all night, like people from DuPont family and stuff in chess, and they'd rather hang out with me than go home to the family. So they stay with me all night. Plus, they're the big boss at home. I abused them to death on the street. So they would stay with me. And that's how marriage is too. It can be. Or it can be heaven. It depends on your relationship. So, um, moving on for a second here. Knight b3, and we're attacking these guys, and we'll just try to get a bishop pair. What do you think of this? Uh, Seems reasonable. I'm gonna maybe some bishop e3. I have to watch these knight c4s when I go bishop e3, right? But I mean, if he doesn't trade the queens, maybe if I get queen e2, it should be good for me. Queen e2, I guard the c4 square, then go bishop e3 and start plunking pieces on c5. Plus, I have g4s, g5. The e pawn is a little soft. Maybe some, queen e2, tap the e pawn a bit. I'm wondering. Yeah, it looks fairly comfortable for me. Queen c7, queen e2, rook d8, bishop g5. I'm not sure about this. Why did I do that? Oh, because bishop e3 has knight d5s, right? So I wonder if I could do I wonder if c4s. Now he's gonna maybe get some e4s and some. It shouldn't be. Yeah, this is good. Make opposite bishops and make a draw, right? Just take the knight on f6, and then I get knight c5 and knight e4, and it should be okay. So, uh, so yeah, I mean, so these guys hanging out with me all night, and then I noticed that a lot of these folks were the same cats in the poker rooms. That it's like half grinding and half coping with society, coping with the machinations of finance, and dealing with getting up early in the morning and trying to make a living, and the gravity of it is so intense that it doesn't make any sense. Like, economics are very strange, don't you think? Like, why materials exist, they don't need to be paid for. It's just a matter of, in the old days, manual labor was a thing because people needed to be compensated for their labor. But now we could do simple robot farming. There really isn't any need. And if you just break it down to the base needs of the species. It's just food, water, and shelter, right? So let's say you have apartments for everyone, 444 square feet. We'll use a nice angelic number, and then spring water, fountains everywhere, and food banks. You really don't need 99% of the products created are completely useless when it comes to survival. Like things that we eat also in the human diet. Like they'll figure out the perfect human diet. The dude Brian Johnson's trying to figure out the blueprint guy, right? So when we get that, then a lot of these will be able to trim so much fat. So I don't know. I'm not big on capitalism as I've been through the wave of financial uh, you know classes. Uh, I don't like the way it makes it look. All the wars happen because of economics. If there's one thing that's going to destroy us all by nuclear war, it's just going to be power dynamics. It isn't really psychosis based on anything else that I can see, through my travels on this planet. So, all right, moving on here for a second. Oh, World Series of Poker. Yeah, so what happened? The first time I played World Series of Poker, the first guy, listen to this, the first table I went to, I played Binions. I think it was 2002. And I had like 1,200 in my pocket. And there's a 1K with rebuys. And this is not smart bankroll management, but I don't care. So I sat down, and my first table had Doyle Brunson. My first WSOP, after I had been playing and crushing all over the East Coast, that poker was so easy. I put it to you this way. I played a tournament on a Friday with like 80 runners, and I won. Then I played the same tournament on Sunday, and I won. It's like 3,000, 3,000. Then a couple of 10, 20 cash sessions where I won 150 big bets. I mean, that's how soft games were. And also, I was running good and just attacking. I don't know. I was just running good. I haven't seen this in 1,000 years where I sat down on a 15-30 game at Foxwoods one night and I made two pair every hand for 2 hours, and I made like over 3,000 in a 15-30 game. So when you have these 100 bet games, 100 bet sessions, 150, very, very rare. I haven't had one like that in 25 years. Um, I forget where I was. So Queen H5. Let's look at Queen H5. Look, it's starting to look good for me, right? Can I just like launch these pawns and go to e4 and G5 and start attacking to death? I thought I was starting to get a little frisky here. I thought this could be very nice for me. So he defended himself beautifully. I really thought he was in trouble. I really remember thinking he was in trouble, but look how he defended the f6 square. That's why he's Vladimir Burmakin. Look, he defended the f6 square. He held him. Like a lot of people might have capitulated there. C3, it's just super solid. Probably can I launch these pawns? The problem is. Oh yeah, problem is there is a problem. Like if let's say I get h4 and g4, there's a problem. You see what it is? You see what it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's when you're in New Orleans with your girlfriend, and you're both drunk, because you're drunks from gambling and being in the casinos, and you come home to a barricaded door, and when you open the door, you realize there's no way this is going to work out, and you go to pick up your bag, and she says, you don't have a bag. So what do you mean I don't have a bag? She said, I threw that shit out the window. It only had $8,000 in it. That's what happens. That's what happens. I should have stuck with Burmakin and these people. I would have avoided that situation. The capitalism. She threw my bag out the fucking window. 8,000 it had in it. My car keys, my home keys. Somebody had a real nice night in the Quarter that night. Imagine you walking in the French Quarter and you see a bag and you open it up and there's 8,000 in it. That's the empathy situation. In a way, I had a romantic. I was like, yeah, I suffered, but someone else felt good that night. Very good. Not me. Queen E2, knight F6, knight takes F. I know I was saying something else important before, but I forget. So now we're just here, and it's just drow. It's just drow. Yeah. All right, so we just have drow. Although, is this better side of drow? King G2. Probably not. Okay. We make drow. So I was somewhere, but listen, poker now is very hard. Poker now is totally different because all these genius coaches decided that we were going to make everybody smarter. I mean, why wouldn't you get Seidel? Even Seidel used to talk about it. He didn't want people to see his hole cards because he didn't want to teach people how to play. That's a smart man. All the money isn't being a pro. Is just being much better than your opponents. But now, it's so easy to join a website. The good news is not everybody knows the best websites to join. I mean, I might as well tell you. There's just a few people who really know what they're talking about. Ben CB is a good guy to listen to. Benjamin Roll, like his way, he Doug Polk for Heads Up. I mean, obviously I took his Heads Up course. It's fantastic. Pads is really strong. Pads is a good teacher. It's also not just about being a knowledgeable person or but it's about the presentation. Who's a good teacher, right? Like Mark Dvoretsky in chess, he was a phenomenal player, but he was even a better teacher. And that's kind of what you need, someone who can convey the information, appropriately, and cut through the fat, because most of the poker is editing, is being a strong editor. What information is important, right? And get rid of the fat. People want to hear about WSOP bust out hand. I mean, is it that complicated? I mean, the guy raised the turn, and then he bets the river. I mean, what do you need to know? I have to fold. He has all the ace X combos, under the gun at the main event final table. I mean, what do you think he has? There are no sets. He raised the turn. It's just, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I didn't find that one to be too hard. And, somehow they're calling it planned. Looking back at that whole thing and WSOP and the whole World Series, and winning a bracelet and all that, I mean, it was just survival. It's just survival. Poker was really fun for me for a long time, and now it feels more like work. It's interesting. You have to change your philosophy over time. Well, once in the beginning it's hunger, and then later on it has to be art, science, and puzzle, right? To remove the economics, to find purity somewhere. Because I'm not a capitalist. My nature is, I'm a hippie. I used to play frisbee in Washington Square Park, in the 70s, and then later on in Sheep's Meadow in Central Park. I was out there, and John Lennon got shot. We were all out there in Strawberry Fields, now Strawberry Fields, hanging out at the meadow, like smoking weed all day and night, running around, heading up to Woodstock in upstate New York. It's not the same thing. It's not the same. You have to change. Like, look at some of the stronger players like Lucky Chewy. These people, they're more into energy healing. And other guys, that work out constantly, that try to maintain a healthy state of mind, going to yoga. I did yoga for the best times of my life. Oh, if you're really suffering and you can't win, you have to go to hot yoga. I did hot yoga 6 days a week. I was going to the gym when I was my heyday of poker. I was going to the gym. I had stopped drinking. I got through some heavy trauma. Yoga 6 days a week, and the gym for an hour and a half a night between 3 and 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. I would wait for all the drunk people to get home in Texas because they close the bars at 2. By the time everybody's off the streets, it's like 3, and I'm heading to the gym in the middle of the night. That's the kind of lifestyle you have to lead if you want to be a pro. Clean living. And I did that I was a pro for like 22 years, I would say. Something total from 98 to 2009. 21 years, something like that. And then between 92, between the early years and professional, when online started in 99, Planet Poker, I was on every day. And then in the early days, it was just we would make the rounds around like Taj Mahal and other casinos to play low limit and just learning. But this is the combination. You get the backgammon, poker, chess combos. Usually some horses are infused. I didn't tell any horse stories, but the first money game I ever played was horses. Horses, and then later on, of course, pool was a big deal. And then hopefully in the end, you get a little quiet, you quiet down, and the mayhem stops. And now we're making chess videos. So I think it's about time to get some coffee. We're going to have coffee. All right. I will see you next time.